Hey guys, I'm Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So right now we are halfway through our second cutting of hay, and I'm using the old Heston PT10 mower conditioner. It's got a sickle bar down here that cuts the hay, and then the reel pushes the hay into a set of rollers back here. And this set of rollers crimps the grass as it goes through, or it crushes the grass. And that's supposed to help the hay dry quicker. Now this Heston PT10, I'm gonna assume that this is probably late 1960s. They made this for several years. It's all rusty, it looks beat up, but it still gets the job done. So I just finished up cutting this first hay field, and this field looked pretty bad. It had a lot of tall weeds in it that were about a foot and a half taller than the grass. Made this field look pretty horrible, really. It looked like it was very poor quality, but underneath it all, there was a thick layer of grass in there, probably 18 inches tall. So I think we're still gonna get several hay bales off of that field. So this next field is the majority of orchard grass and clover. You can see the clover in here. The orchard grass looks very nice. And we've got a few weeds working in here. You can see some tall stuff sticking up here and there. But overall, this field has there's a lot of grass and clover here. I think we're gonna get several bales off of this field. I think for a second cut, I really couldn't ask for too much better than this. Well, let's go ahead, we'll get the tractor fired back up and we'll get this all mowed down. And then probably 2 days from now, we'll be able to come back and bale it up. All right, we got the second hayfield cut, and very happy that everything went smooth for a change. No problems. Now I do want to I have plans to work on the hay mower, and let me show you what I want to do. So as you look down the path where this mows, you can see it funnels the hay just a little bit so that there's an open path on each side. And it takes that 9-foot sickle bar and it shrinks that windrow down to about 7.5 feet, somewhere in there. Shrinks it down just a little bit. Well, some of these mowers have like an adjustable funnel on the back where you can adjust the windrow width, and this one doesn't have it. So what I want to do is make a couple pieces to go underneath the back of the hay mower and make them where I can bolt them in at different angles and change the width of the windrow. And I think that will be very handy if I'm going to try to make some silage out of the sorghum Sudan in the front field. It would be nice if I can make a windrow that's basically the same size as the baler, and then I can just bale it right up the next day and I won't have to rake anything. So I've looked through the parts manual on this machine and I realized that it is missing several parts here on the back side, and that those forming shields or deflectors, they are some of the parts that are missing. It should have had them. So after seeing the parts and looking this over, I think I can make something that's relatively close to the original, and I've looked through the parts. I think I've got everything I need, so let's go in the shop. We're going to start see if we can fab up our own. So I have this piece of 14 gauge steel, and it's big enough I can cut both side deflectors out of it. So I'm going to use a plasma cutter, cut out the pieces that I need, and then we're going to try to bend them. But I'm going to try a trick to see if we can make bending this a little bit easier. So I'm changing the tip out on the plasma cutter to what they call a drag tip or a contact tip, and it'll allow us to just take it right against the sheet metal. I can use a straight edge guide to cut a perfectly straight line with it. So I want to put a slight bend right across here. So to get this to bend easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plasma cutter and I'm just going to cut out some slots. Every so often I'm going to cut out some slots. That way there's less metal connected to bend, and hopefully this will bend easier. Try to give myself a little bit of a pattern to follow. So I'll cut out 3 inches and then I'm going to leave 1 inch. Oh, I screwed up there too. There's a couple places I got the pattern off. It's not going to be perfect. I got it off there too. What in the heck? I'm not very good at this. So as I cut these slots, I would angle the plasma cutter slightly one direction, and then when I came back, I would angle it the other direction, and that's just making a wider cut than normal. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's still 12 inches here to try to bend. It's actually bending. All right, about 26 degrees. I don't think that looks too bad. All right, I've got both of the deflectors made up. They're bent opposite of each other, so there's a left hand and a right hand. I've deburred all of the edges. I've rounded the corners. I've cleaned up everywhere we used the plasma cutter. I've tried to smooth that all out. And I think these are prepared as far as I need to go. And the next thing to do is I'm going to put a piece of angle iron across the top. That's going to be kind of, I'll call it the top support. And that's what's going to bolt in at the very back of the machine and hold whatever angle we want the deflector to be. And then we're gonna weld on a couple of hinges on the inside, toward the inside of the machine. All right, I've got both of my deflectors made up. I only put angle iron at the top of the back of this because this is where it's going to bolt to this very back of the machine. So I only needed to put it at the back. I didn't have to do the entire length. And then I've got 2 weld-on hinges up here at the front. I've pre-drilled a hole in each one of these. I'm going to attach these with a self-tapping screw to begin with, and I'm going to make sure that it fits in there and that it swings properly in and out. And then once I know that these are in the correct position, I'll go back and I will weld these hinges to the machine and make it permanent. But we're going to test fit this entire thing first. It's not, I won't say it's perfect. It's like a 1/2 inch there, touching there. That's pretty close. Oh, yes. All right, I've got the deflectors mounted underneath, and this one right here, I probably just need to move the hinges down about a 1/2 inch. It doesn't swing quite level, but this one over here, I think we've got the hinges exactly where it needs to be because it swings perfect with the top of this when it opens and closes. But this convinces me that this is gonna work, so I'm gonna take them back out and I'm gonna get them painted up. And I know people are gonna say you might as well just let them rust. It'll look exactly like the rest of the machine. It'd match if I let it rust. Man, the wind is terrible. So like most projects that I start, I fail to realize exactly how long it's going to take to complete them. So now that I've got this side painted, I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow to paint the other side. And it'll probably be the day after that before I can get them permanently mounted inside of the mower and then be able to test them out to see if it actually makes a windrow like we want it to. So it'll probably be a couple videos down the road before we finish this up. But the thing I should be focusing on right now is hay, because I've got hay cut and on the ground, and I plan on trying to rake it and bale it tomorrow if it's dry enough. So what I should be doing is trying to get out the hay rake, and I'm pretty sure that it's buried behind a bunch of equipment back there. So I need to head over there and see if I can get it out and get it ready for tomorrow. Well, it's exactly what I thought. The hay rake's way back there. I've got several things in the way. I've got a carry-all, I've got a pallet full of oil fill pipes, I've got a brush hog there, and I think everything that's in here is out of the way, but you really can't see it, can you? This is one of the places I sprayed the weed killer that was kind of like a ground clear. It was supposed to prevent weeds from coming up, and it worked for about half of the summer. And I really felt like I sprayed this very well, like oversprayed it. If any place should have not grown weeds, it should have been this area. And I've got several pieces of equipment buried in here. There's a rear blade for the Allis Chalmers. There's a 3-point rear blade. There's a sickle bar mower. There's the roller packer back in there. And then I think I've got some scrap metal and then some other pieces that are all inside there. You can't even tell they're there with all the weeds. And this is all a gravel area. This is all gravel. And I was really wanting it to stay weed free this year. It just didn't end up working the way I thought it should. Really? I mean, it seems like I just used this thing the other day. It's already covered in vines. That is crazy. I live in a jungle, I think. I know somebody's gonna think they're poisonous. They're not. At least I don't think they are. Well, the last couple days the weather has definitely been cooler. I've been worried about this drying. Definitely still a little greener underneath, not completely dry. But man, the top sounds dry. It still has a ton of color in it. It's still very green. It looks good. I think by tomorrow it'll be dry by tomorrow. Yep, it's looking good. Looking good. So I'm hoping going into wintertime with the amount of animals that we have now, I was really shooting for like 40 bales of hay. Last year I ran out of hay. Didn't want that to happen again. I got 26 on our first cutting, so I think I just need 14 bales on this cutting, and I will have at least the minimum that I want for the winter. So we'll just have to wait and see how many bales we end up getting from this. I still have the front field that I'm going to experiment with and try to make silage, and you know, depending on what we have in that field, we may end up getting more animals for the wintertime. Who knows? But the only thing I'm worried about is I just want to get 40 bales of regular hay, and then that whole silage thing's an experiment, and we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. But I think we'll end up getting it from the second cutting of hay. Sometimes you get a third cutting of hay. It's not always. Now that I'm doing this full time, there's probably a better chance of it, just because I'll have more time to be able to do it. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think that's going to be it for this video. Tomorrow morning we'll come back out here, we'll check this again, and if it's dry enough, I'll get it raked up and I'll try to get it all round baled, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have any breakdowns. So hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.